All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to episode 3 of season 2. Again, I am Nick Galrakis, my brother Steve Galrakis, here with Spilling Tea with the G's, where we talk about AYA cancer and the community and those within it doing awesome work. We are pumped and thrilled to bring you Yolanda Murphy. If you know Yolanda, there's not much of an introduction needed. She does a wonderful job of just talking her mind and speaking. And we had a blast with this episode, Steve. I don't know about you, but I think this is probably one of the best ones we've done yet.
Yeah, I was really excited to meet Yolanda before the interview. I'd never met her before, heard a lot of good things, and it just went incredibly well. So it was a pleasure, and I hope everyone enjoys as much as we did.
Yeah, for sure. And Yolanda has her own website called thisexceptionaljourney.com. So definitely check that out. We laughed, we cried, we made fun of each other. And I'm just gonna tell Yolanda, go Browns. All right, let's throw it over and enjoy this episode.
We told you, but when we had our panel recording for what's coming up for GapFest, I was like, you guys are so great to give out questions, because when I record for my podcast, I give out I give the preface of, okay, this is what we may talk about. I don't need any questions. Let's go, babe. He was like, okay, Yolanda, you say that now.
Yeah, so we might just leave her off on any of the questions that we send to everyone else and just,
That's fine.
I love it.
I'm down. I think better on my feet anyway, babe.
I was gonna say, something tells me though, Yolanda, you think better on your feet, and it won't, nothing was gonna phase you right now. I think it's
at this point, no, it's
So we're just gonna go right into it, because Steve and I, we typically just record an intro separately, and I'll attach it to the front of this later on. So we just we'll just keep talking now and just
absolutely.
So again, thanks for joining us again, Yolanda. And
absolutely.
Steve will find a way to throw curveballs at you, so just be ready for it.
Absolutely.
I occasionally do too, though, Steve, right? I feel like it's not just me or you, but go ahead, mushroom hat.
I usually get deep.
That's fine. Did you just call him mushroom hat?
Mushroom hat. Since he pointed out his mushroom hat, I figured I just had to go with it.
Oh, I just love this chemistry, guys. I just love
it. We're here, right? And we're just pumped that you joined us, and have so many connections even before we ever met Yolanda. I think that was one of the funniest things, was between going to YSC a couple of years ago. This the connection with Stephanie Scaletti, for those that don't know who we're talking about. So this is the problem with sometimes doing a video podcast. As you have these inside things with people, and you have to, with Young Adult Survivors United, such an awesome group from Pittsburgh. But I can't really see. This is the problem with Cleveland fans right now. We don't have much of a leg to stand on to make fun of Steeler fans. So go ahead. Yeah, there you go. Rock your Pittsburgh stuff. So,
8-0.
As of now, 8-0.
As of now.
So Yolanda, Steve and I, we obviously have done our homework. We know you, or actually, I know you. You and Steve just met right before this. But tell us a little about who you are, what you do. Just kind of like a snapshot into the life of Yolanda Murphy when it comes to you, and then also your cancer journey as well.
Absolutely. So, as I said before, guys, thank you so much. This is such an honor to be on with both of you. What? And like you said, Nick, it's so crazy how many connections we had even before meeting each other. And I kept hearing Nick and Steve. And I was like, they sound like great guys. I mean, if it wasn't with Lacuna Loft, or like you said, with Steph, all these connections, but here we are, and I'm so grateful. So thank you. But me, Yolanda, who is Yolanda? I mean, it starts with a breast cancer diagnosis 4 years ago. I was 36, didn't know what the hell was going on in life. Was just starting possibly a career, all of those great things that you do in your 30s, trying to get your credit together after you bombed it in your 20s, all of those great things. And I found a lump. The story goes, found it, biopsy, ultrasound, radiation, boom. 3 days later, I'm told I had breast cancer, and then had surgery, chemo, and then radiation, all of 2016. And then after that, I was kind of crazy and thought, I want to be this super advocate that I did not have all going through my cancer journey. Excuse me. So I sought out different organizations where I could learn how to be my own self-advocate and help others like me who were young and also African-American. So I started with Living Beyond Breast Cancer. They have this amazing young adult program where they train you how to be an advocate. That was in 2017. And literally from there, everything else just soared, got connected with YSC and Lacuna Loft and Young Adult Survivors United. And my journey has brought me here. I went from being just a patient to being just a survivor to now really wanting to be the voice of the voiceless, as I usually say, letting people know that as you're going through something specifically before 40, as detrimental as a cancer diagnosis, it's very lonely alone, being just under 40, but being of a different ethnicity or having a different cultural background than what the norm is of someone who's supposed to have cancer. It's daunting. It makes you feel even more alone. So yeah, that was really my journey to here. I wanted to ensure that if someone felt that they were alone, that they no longer needed to. And kind of every step of the way, every organization I've been connected to, and now of course with you all, like that's really the clarion call, is to make sure that, what we're doing in the spaces where we make the difference that we need to, however we need to. So yeah, here we are.
That's awesome, just laying that groundwork for everyone. And that explains a lot to me anyways of why you're so involved in so many different areas.
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest things that it took me back a little bit, just looking at your resume, if you will, of advocate stuff. I mean, I at one point I was laughing, like, is there a group that Yolanda's not connected to?
Well, that's so funny you say that, because a lot of people, I don't know. Throughout the years, I've just tried to be connected to the people that are making moves, right? And you don't want to be like here in lowly Pittsburgh. I mean, I love my city, but there's not a lot of me, like young adult African American. And I kind of had to be, as I always say, the token chocolate chip. So in those spaces, I tried to become not just the Black one, not just the young adult one, but the one that can actually be the resource for others in the city. So I just try to be connected to the peeps, and you guys are definitely the peeps. So I am grateful.
Well, thank you for that. And
yeah,
they touched on such an interesting topic there, which we can go on for days about, but just the relatability side of things, right? I think is so important. That's something we've always talked about, elephants and tea. Just from a marketing standpoint and everything else when it comes to being a person of color, Black, brown, indigenous, whatever the case might be. There's that YSC a couple of years ago, and I won't dwell on this too much. That was kind of like a wake-up call for me. We had one of our good friends who's Indian on the cover, and a whole group of Black women came up to us and thanked us for that, for having someone on the cover. And we didn't think anything about it. We just put our friend on there who's a survivor who wrote. You look around the room and you go, everything's white. So, I think that you just touched on something right there that, a lot of us are trying to change the game. We're not the only ones, elephants and tea, as far as organizations. It's 2020. So thankfully more people are opening their eyes and ears and listening and figuring shit out, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Absolutely.
But good for you for just saying, you know what, like, let's just do this. This is who I am. And I'm going to be that, almost like the bridge even too, for a lot of people. And I know that makes a huge difference for people when you have folks like yourself who are able to connect in different ways and be relatable as well, with all the amazing work you do, which we'll touch on in a second. But thank you for all that you do. That's for damn sure.
Oh, well, I'm just little old me, but you're welcome.
Whatever. Be humble. I appreciate the humbleness. So I'm going to switch gears and go over to your website, The Exceptional Journey.
Yes.
First of all, the tagline, walking the survivor's side of life. Where did you come up with that tagline? Because, I was looking at it. I've looked at your website multiple times, but this morning, for whatever reason, I just kind of like zoned in on that. And we're working on a couple other things, but that tagline, I just dig it. And so just talk a little bit about that from your standpoint of why you picked that tagline.
Absolutely. So 2 years ago, I started This Exceptional Journey. Again, wanting to really be a voice to the voiceless. I started out just doing a blog because, as you can tell, I like to talk. So I was like, okay, I just need to get out in writing. And I've always loved to like write and journal, all of those things, very therapeutic, even before breast cancer. So I said, I'll start a blog. I wanted to do it in college. Let's just do it. Did that. And then probably 6 months into it, I was like, okay, no, I need people to hear me. I need people to see all of me, to hear all of me. And then I created the podcast. it was when I created the podcast that I wanted a hook, like a tagline, like they do in business, this is what you're supposed to do. And, when I thought about it, what I wanted people to walk away from when they encounter this exceptional journey is to know not only am I also a survivor, but it is literally a journey. So it's not you just come to a place and you're a survivor. No, we are walking the survivor side, whatever that survivorship looks like for you. We're walking this journey together. And that's what I really wanted to hone in on, is that people knew not only am I a survivor, but I'm still walking. Steve, you can probably attest every day is a different journey on this side of cancer or after a diagnosis. So that's what I wanted people to know that I'm walking with you. All the topics that I discuss deal with survivorship or co-survivorship. I've had some co-survivors on as well. So yeah, that's kind of where that came from. I wanted people to know I'm in it with you and we're all walking this side together. So
very cool. Steve, do you want to jump in there?
Oh, no, not yet.
Not yet. Sorry. I said, whenever I see you come off from mute, I'm always like, but I'm not sure if it's because my child is next to you making noise. So
there it is.
Oh, no. I'm just preparing in case I do have a question, but I can get it in there real quickly.
I know you're going to have some good ones, Steve.
Yolanda, you can't see that, we don't like to talk either, right? So that's awesome. That's very cool. Cause it's, and the word journey, it's amazing now running an organization, right? For AYA cancer survivors, patients, caregivers, right? The mixed feelings on the word journey, we hear that all the time. Even the word survivor, which I'm not going to go there on survivor because there's so many things there. But the word journey, have you heard any kind of negative feedback by using that word? Because I know we have, where people are like, oh, it's not a journey. I didn't want this journey, this and that. But I think to me, that's part of it though, right? And I think that it's just something it's not easy to swallow sometimes, which makes it a journey, I guess. But just curious if you ever heard any people saying, why do you call it journey? Because that's a term I always hear from people when they bring it up.
Oh yeah, for sure. You always have your friends and family that are very supportive, like, oh my goodness, that's so amazing. You want to do this thing. But then when you get to the nitty gritty and you actually get to the people that are facing it, you get that, even like you said, from the word survivor and journey and warrior, all of these things. So to answer your question, yes, I've definitely had some backlash. This is how I see it though. I called it a journey because like anything else we face in life, not just cancer, if you have any other diagnosis, if you lose someone at a young age, when you face a trauma, it is a journey to get from one point to another, whether it's every day, every hour, every year. If you have a loved one that you lost, you don't just stay there. Like your life does not stop there. Hence the journey. It is a walk of life that every day may look different. I played and toyed with exceptional. I played with like exceptional path and exquisite journey. I was like, no, it's an exceptional journey, not only because it's mine, but it is literally every day walking this walk that looks different every day. And it is a journey. There's highs, there's lows, there's ups, there's downs. That's where I come from with it, because it literally is a roller coaster ride. It's a journey. So yeah, but backlash for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think it's so interesting, right? And what we like to tell people too, it's like, hey, everyone, whatever gets you through your treatments, the side effects, living with cancer afterwards, you do you, is what we like to tell people, and I'm sure you hear too doing interviews, but when people write for us, we tell them the same thing. It's like, hey, you want to drop the F-bomb in there? Drop the F-bomb in there. You want to talk about God? Talk about God. And I think it's just important for people to, whatever term they latch onto it.
Absolutely.
So I have a question for you, Yolanda, because we're talking about journey here, and terms and stuff. And not that I really honestly care about terms when it comes to describing me, because I'm me. I just don't care. Yeah. But so for those of you who are watching this for the first time, I've had cancer 5 times, sorry, that was 4, 5 times with 4 different cancers. And my first 2, I wanted, after my first one, after my second one, I wanted nothing to do with this world. I didn't want to be a part of this community. I didn't want to be at the hospital doing all those kind of things.
And when you say
I didn't mind talking.
When you mean the AYA cancer community?
Sorry, the AYA cancer world. I apologize.
I was like, whoa, we're getting deep.
The AYA cancer world.
Right.
That one's a different conversation for a different time. But the AYA cancer world. Didn't want to be involved with it. Just, I just wanted to be done with it. So I guess my question to you is, was there a point in time where you just said, this is too much, or I just want to take care of myself and not do anything else? Have you ever had that? I know we all have those days dealing with this type of work that can be very tough and struggling, but have you ever really had a time where you just didn't want to be involved in this community at all?
I'm going to say yes, but with stipulations, only because, again, how do I want to say, in our community, not just the AYA community, but even, let's take a step back. In the African-American community, cancer is not discussed, regardless of your age, right? And then being also a part of the AYA community, it's not that it's not necessarily discussed. It's unfathomable to some people that if you're under a certain age that you actually like have this diagnosis. So those two things coupled together made me want to be an even bigger voice for those two proponents of people. So in the beginning, of course, all gung ho, yes, let's go, let's save all the people, let's get cures, all of these things. But it wasn't until I actually started losing people in this community. I remember one of the very first young people that was a part of Steph's group, support group, her name was Haley. And her and I had just did maybe like 2-3 months before she passed, a photo shoot. Someone here had a t-shirt line. They wanted survivors to model them. We were like, sure, let's go. We had the most awesome time. Like literally, it was amazing. I met Haley literally again for the first time. And like maybe 6 months later, she was gone very quickly. At that time is when I wanted to hang it up, because I said to myself, how can I be this strong survivor, still getting clean scans and still doing all of these things in the community to be a better advocate? But this is going to continue to happen. Like, unfortunately, cancer takes people's lives. So at that moment, Steve, absolutely, I was like, no. And it took me a couple months. I was MIA on everything. People were looking for me. They were sending me emails. I said, nope, I can't do it. Nope. I need time to process with this young, she was like 22. I needed time to process that for myself. At that time, I hung it up for a little bit. I did. I was like, I can't come to board meetings. I cannot attend support groups. I can't. And I did. But what got me back on the high horse is recognizing and realizing that the diagnosis of young adults never stopped. African-American communities still don't talk about getting cancer, but even research, clinical trials, all of that is still not discussed. So my why came back to me. And I was like, okay, no, girl, you got to get up now. Okay, have your moment. But there's still people that need you. There are still people that need a voice. So yeah, I definitely, and every time someone passes away, unfortunately, it's a tough pill to swallow. I take my time, I process it, I grieve the way I need to, but I still remember there's other people that still need me. So.
Well,
Thank you.
I think, go ahead, Steve.
No, I was just going to say thank you, Yolanda, for being honest and talking about those kind of things, because it's sometimes people like to think that when you're doing this kind of work that from day one this has been your your path, your passion afterwards, that you just want to that there's nothing that how do I put this? They see this side of us,
right?
The side that we obviously you tell your story on your website and you're very open about who you are, but there's always a little bit of, when you're around patients and survivors, that you want to give off that vibe of feeling everything will be okay,
right?
And so sometimes it's hard even for me and other people to just understand that we have those moments in our lives where this is overwhelming because of what happens, friends we lose, other things. For me, I kind of went and obviously you came back to this world, and this community. You didn't disappear, forever. And now you're a gigantic advocate for us and for your own community. And so for me, after my second cancer, I had a friend also pass away.
Nipple.
Thank you. But she was 13, and it just like upended my life.
Yeah. It's a tough.
So it was my okay, and at first I was so pissed, I was so angry. I was like, well, this is ridiculous, and I was like, well, what would she want me to do?
Exactly. Exactly. And
So,
that's always a tough pill to swallow, especially if it's someone that you're close to, that you're fighting with and for. Um, but unfortunately, life, things happen,
oh
and
yeah.
you're right. It's coming back to that why. To me, it's always came back to, why did you start? Why did you what catapulted you mentally and emotionally? Because I mean, let's be honest, we know in the AYA community or any support community, like you kind of have to look past yourself for things to get done and accomplished. Yes, I'm a survivor, but there are some moments where I have to put on my big girl pants and say, okay, now you need to be a facilitator, or now you need to be a panelist. And like you said, Steve, no one really, and I literally just talked about this in our support group on Monday. No one sees the nights when we cry ourselves to sleep. No one sees when my hair was falling out during chemo and I couldn't stop crying in the shower. Like, they don't see those moments. They see this. Oh yes. And that's true. But both are a reality. Both are completely a reality. And it's sometimes a tough pill to swallow, but it's real.
Well, and as you said, life is a journey. It's not a guaranteed kindness. It's not guaranteed anything.
Yep.
You're lucky if you have it. And that's
Exactly.
about it.
Exactly. Yep.
And just to add, so first of all, Yolanda, I'll explain the nipple comment in a second. I realize it's
I think I kind of got it, but go ahead.
okay, yeah, it's extreme. I guess long story short, our dad became a big teddy bear when Steve got sick, and when we would see him get emotional, we would just say the word nipple, and it would make him laugh.
Right.
So it just like, what stupid, hilarious word can we
Yes.
throw out there that's appropriate in front of a
Yes.
mass group of people? So nipple is what we came up with.
I love it. I'm going to use it. I hope you know that.
Just go nuts. Go. So it wasn't some like sexual thing I was just throwing out there.
Right.
Like,
No. I figured.
what is up with these G brothers? Like, it's weird, man. No,
But they're really spilling the tea, aren't they?
indeed. So, just to add to all of what both of you are talking about, and again, being a sibling and not the patient survivor side, I think what really hit home for a lot of people that know Steve but didn't know, like you said, Steve, they know this side of you and Yolanda, and even myself and those that are as the siblings, right? And running a nonprofit organization, like there's so many stories I could tell over the past 2 years. But we used to do an annual fundraiser for the Stephen Z. Cancer Research Fund, Yolanda. And he gave a speech. Was it last year? I forget which year it was.
It would be 2 years now at this point.
2 years, yeah, 2 years. And I can hear mom in the background. Tell her hello. So Steve got up there and said a speech at the 10-year anniversary of doing this, and it's almost 16 years for Steve from his first cancer, right, Steve? Yeah. Anyways, he got up there and basically said, after year 1, I lost this many people I knew to cancer.
Mm-hmm.
After year 2, I lost this, 3, 4, 5. And it was like multiplying each time, not adding. It was multiplying.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a room of about 300 people, 350 people, just kind of sitting there, just going, like, you could hear a pin drop. And I think that, like, folks like yourself, Yolanda, and Steve, you're not just carrying the weight of you, you're carrying the weight of a lot of other people as well. And I don't think people recognize that this could obviously go into the whole conversation about survivor's guilt and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just so fascinating, terrifying, whatever word you want to use, knowing that how many.
I'm sorry that I'm laughing right now, Nick, but your naked baby just walked by me, like, so I just got
COVID,
right?
If a naked baby comes on camera, is that on me, like, X-rated?
She has a diaper on. It's fine.
All right, we're good then. So,
sorry.
Talk about breaking the ice on an emotional moment.
There it is, a naked baby.
Yeah, but anyways, back to what I think both of you were saying. It's, people don't realize that, right? They don't realize the weight, the crying yourself to sleep at night, those types of things, to do what you got to do to get through that moment. Mm-hmm. I saw a mutual friend of ours post something on Facebook yesterday, the day before, on just making sure that she went and just had a self-care day for herself, and just basically said, nope, can't do it today. Like, this is, and it's like, you go, girl, like, you got to do that. And when you're in this community, or if you're just a patient survivor, whatever, a caregiver, you have to take care of yourself too. And I think that it's easier said than done. We all get so caught up in our stuff, but it's just so interesting, right? Because everything that all three of us do, we do things differently, but at the same time, it's still a lot right here, right? And I think that there's something to be said about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're right. It has to come from the heart though. Like, I feel like if you were in this journey or this walk with AYA survivors, co-survivors, siblings, moms, dads, spouses, if you were in it for any other reason than your heart was in it, you're going to burn out very quickly. That is the truth. Like, some of the times my friends and family ask me like, okay, so what meeting do you have right now? And then where are you going to do what? And then I'm like, I got it, guys. Don't worry about it. It's to the point where I have to give my parents now keywords so they know which organization I'm talking about is doing something. And I'm like, well, remember when we had this? Oh yeah. So now this is what's going on. But if it was not a passion, I wouldn't still be doing it.
Right.
I wouldn't. Yeah.
Amen to that. So as far as the passion side of things, right? What is your favorite part of what you do as an advocate? Is it the podcast? Is it the writing? Is it just seeing people? What is like if Yolanda could pick one thing that she loves over the rest, what is it?
Oh my, just one?
I mean, if you got like a 1A, B, we'll
okay. Okay. So I would definitely say, well, let me preface, because the things that are my favorite all have one thing in common. And that one thing in common is that people actually say they feel like I'm helping them. That's the ultimate goal, regardless of if it's they heard the podcast, regardless of if they heard me speak somewhere, or if they've read something I've written, or if I had a feature somewhere. The main goal to me is making sure people don't feel alone and they feel like they're being helped or I'm walking beside them. That is my favorite thing. If nothing else occurs, that is the main goal. How it happens doesn't really matter to me, as long as that is getting done. That's my favorite. But if I had to say one favorite thing to do, I would definitely say the podcast for sure. Because I literally just do this. I just sit and talk and that's it. So
it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
By the way, did you have any sort of radio background or entertainment background before you did this?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. But so many people ask me that. Like, when I'm literally 2020 has been, although horrible, it's been amazing for me in regards to advocacy. Like, I've been connected to organizations and stuff I've never even known about. Say that to say one in particular, the PA Cancer Coalition. I was on a panel in September, and one of the Susan G. Komen who sits on the board was like, I really think you should have a radio show. It's like, what? I had someone say to me they think I should be a news anchor. So to answer your question, no, I've just always loved to talk. Like, literally when I was in elementary school, I would get all A's, and then my teacher would say, but she's satisfactory or unsatisfactory because she likes to talk over me, or she thinks she's the teacher and she should be telling the students what to do. So I've kind of always had a talkative, side to me, but no, never radio, never even considered it. Never.
Got it. Well, and the reason I bring it up is because I've been listening to a few of your podcasts this past week, and I was just like, one, can tell the passion you have for it. Like, that's very clear. And how we talked about GabFest, how you're going to be planning for that, and you're just like, yeah, I don't need questions. Let's just go and let's have fun. But your intros, I actually was in radio in college. That was kind of where I wanted to go, possibly. Then Steve got sick, and it was just kind of like, yeah, no, like, just whatever, right? And my path changed a bit, but like, so whenever I hear someone, this is going to sound, my ego is going to go a little bit big here, but I feel like I have a very good ear for certain people that have like that radio voice or that like voiceover voice. And the first time I heard your podcast, I listened, I'm just like, damn, okay. And so anyways, I was just curious if you did have any background in that, because you have the voice for it.
Yeah, no, I'm a singer, like, not like professionally, but in church. And like, I've been a singer since I was a little tyke in church. That's just what you do when you grow up in the church, you sing. My mom sings, my aunt sings, like probably my whole family, except my dad, because he can't sing. But I just grew up in very musical households. So I don't know if my voice just kind of flows like a song. But a lot of people, they say, like, you should get into voiceovers. And I'm like, aha, another stream of income, maybe. But we'll see. We'll see. I appreciate that. I really do, because it is people, you know, like yourself, who have been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and people have, you know, have said to me in those spaces, much like you, like, do you know this is what you sound like? I'm like, I think so. I hear myself every day. Maybe, I don't know.
I know. Like there's certain people, male or female, where like if I hear them, I could get this like tingly feeling. I'm like, that's really good, and it's just like, just so you know, in a non-sexual way, that's very good. Anyways, just want to throw that out there.
I appreciate that, really, I do, because I'm kind of toying with some things. Maybe we can discuss it later.
There we go. There we go. I like that. Secrets are good. Yolanda, what is your elephant in the room when it comes to cancer or the AYA cancer community? That this is always the question we like to pose to our guests. Being elephants in tea, right? That's, you know, we're spilling tea, talking about stuff here. We want to talk about elephants in the room. So what, and it can be 1A, 1B again if you got more than one, but just curious if you have an elephant.
Definitely have elephants, but
birds.
I would say the main elephant in the room for me, when it comes to AYA, I would definitely probably say infertility and children and that whole spectrum. Just to give a brief background, if I can, when I was growing up, when I was born, I was adopted. My parents, of course, are my parents. My family's my family, of course. That goes without saying. But I've always known I was adopted. I've known since I was younger. So, and it's never been a problem. But, you know, much like any teenager, you know, any young adult, you go through identity crisis things where you don't know where you fit in, and you try to find yourself, but it's all the more complex and complicated when you biologically don't look like anyone, and you don't know where your ties are coming from. So it's always been like a blessing and a curse. Of course, a blessing to be adopted and to be loved just the same, because I also have a younger brother, but he is my parents' biological child. Don't even ask me. That's just how God worked it. But so yeah, it's always kind of been in the back of my mind, you know, as most ladies do. I don't know if young men do this, but you A, are getting married, B, you're having tons of kids. You are groomed as a young woman to have Barbie dolls and to have Barbie houses. You're literally taught these things from baby until it happens, how to be a mom and how to keep a house. I mean, that's the reality. So of course that was my thing. I want to have 10 children, 10 boys. They're all going to look like me because I want someone in this world that looks like me. Lo and behold, here comes cancer. And, you know, adoption is still a possibility, of course, fostering, of course. But when it comes to not even having biological ties, and that's really what you've wanted your whole entire life, that is literally the elephant in the room. Every time I talk to anyone about it, or don't talk to anyone about it, if I'm honest, because it's a sensitive subject. It's definitely the elephant. And I'm always ears when people discuss it, or when they, you know, say certain things, you know, oh, I have children and I feel, and I'm like, yeah, babe, but I don't, you know. So that I would definitely have to say that's the elephant. The infertility, along with the preservation, because I didn't have time to do it, because my cancer was so aggressive. They were like, no, we need to get you on chemo right away. You know, all of these things. So that is my elephant. That's definitely my top elephant, for sure.
Hard to argue with that as a top elephant.
Yeah.
Because that was going to be one of my questions, was, were you even given the option? Because I know for so many patients, it's not even brought up. I think people are starting to do a better job of it now. But it sounds like it was mentioned, but there was just no time. Right.
I definitely, probably within the first 2 to 3 weeks of after my diagnosis, I had tons of doctor's appointments, genetics, fertility and preservation, all of those things. And I met with them. They told me what my options were, but like the next week, my medical oncologist, one of the tests came back to rate my reoccurrence, and it came back very high. And he was like, oh no, you're starting, like, if we can get you in this week, you're starting this week. So yeah, no, there was no time to preserve anything, or, you know, to do any of those things, given the option, but it wasn't a possibility. Life was the main goal. So surviving and living was the main goal. So.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that elephant, because I know that it's you are not alone in that. There is definitely a herd of people with that conversation and that topic. A couple of people actually have been on with us. That's been their elephant in the room. And I know that in the AYA community in general, that's such a big topic. And it's something that, unfortunately in your situation was a little bit different versus someone that wasn't even given the option. And that's a whole other conversation of just lack of, I don't even know what the right word is, but it's probably not appropriate, but lack of just knowledge on the oncology's team side of not having the, just letting people know what their choice is, right?
Exactly.
And being able to know that you have the option to freeze eggs or sperm,
Right.
or whoever you are, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and unfortunately, Nick, I'm not sure if probably don't need to tell you this, Yolanda, but unfortunately, it's so much harder for women, unfortunately, because of the process they have to go through to harvest those eggs. I mean, this, Nick. What am I talking about?
Go on.
So it's just, I'm just very sorry that's what had happened, because I can't imagine what that's like. I mean, I can to a certain extent, obviously, from the male perspective, because it's different from a biological standpoint reason, obviously. But for me, I wasn't able to do any banking until after I had multiple chemo treatments and things, so totally different, and obviously now after having all the cancers I've had, it's like, well, not going to have kids, but so thank you for sharing, because I know it's your elephant in the room, but it's definitely something that's not, in a world that's already hard to talk about certain things. It's so important to talk about these kind of things because they're extra hard.
Absolutely.
And so when you have someone like you who's willing to share, I just always want to make sure that how much we appreciate that. So
of course. And I mean, and much like you said, Steve, it's real. You know what I mean? It's hard, but it's real. And I always go to the phrase that anything that's not uncovered can't be healed. If you have a wound that you just keep a Band-Aid on, it's not going to heal properly. So you have to expose it to some type of air, some type of sunshine, some type of something, ointment, to help along the process of healing. And that's really my motto, as ugly as it may get sometimes. It's those elephants in the room that, again, kind of catapult me to live in my own healing, walk in my own healing, but then also recognize that I'm not the only one. You know what I mean? That, Steve, although our journeys aren't the same, but it's still like, damn, like this is where we ended up. Okay. I mean, and we got to face it because it's real,
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the other side of it too is the fact that someone that's as vocal as yourself, Yolanda, don't take that as a knock or anything. I'm being serious, right? I think you'll like to be pat yourself on the back for being chatty, but I think it's important for those people, like all three of us, to just show the vulnerabilities, that we're not this impenetrable force. We're human, and there's a lot of emotions, understatement, right? A lot of emotions that go into cancer. But again, we talked about that relatability side of things, but here's another way that it's important, as tough as it is, to show vulnerabilities when we can as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's imperative. That's how you connect with people. It's not just that we both had cancer. Okay, that's great. And I mean, in my eyes, like I don't know, maybe it's just because of where I am in the game. Like if someone walked up to me and said, "Oh my goodness, I'm also a breast cancer survivor," I would be like, "Well, congratulations. Are you in remission? Wonderful." But what pulls on my heartstrings is that relatability, is that, "Oh, and I wanted to let you know that infertility thing you were talking about," or, "I was also adopted, so I didn't know my family history of genetics and all of that." That's where the connection comes, the relatability. And that's important. That's how you really help. To me, that's how you really help people. And I think you guys do an amazing job, especially with Elephants and Tea and the new mag you just had come out.
Thank you. Yeah, we're
talking. I emailed you. I was like, "Nick, oh my gosh, I feel seen." But it's that relatability. That's really where you help people where they are, is relating to them and letting them know they're not the only one. Absolutely.
Right. Well, and
Nick, can you make sure to put that link below for people on YouTube so they can get to that issue?
Yeah, definitely. And get ready for December's issue too, Yolanda. For our just our quarterly mag, our typical quarterly mag with elephants and tea. You just be ready for it. So
Okay.
we're pumped. It's a lot of people I think are going to be seen in this one, which is I think really cool.
Nice. Awesome.
With all that said, what advice would you give someone? I guess if you could like write a letter to younger self, right, to start as an advocate, what would you say to that person? What would you say to the younger Yolanda?
Absolutely. So what I would say to younger me or someone else to start on the advocacy journey, first, I would suggest just being you, period. One thing that I learned very early on, and not even just with breast cancer, but some other things that I've had to face and conquer from childhood until now, is that if you are not your authentic self as you try to walk out a healing or a journey, you can't help someone else. It's not you. Then you would be trying to help them from a fake place, and that doesn't help either one of you. So I would definitely first say be honest and your authentic self. After you're authentically you and you're honest with yourself about where you are, where you stand on different things, which will probably still come throughout the journey as well. The second thing I would definitely suggest is find your why, because it's that why, much like I spoke of earlier, that you're going to land on times when you don't feel like it, in times where you feel like you grieve, but feel like you don't want to get back up. After you're authentically you and you bring that authentic self into your why, then connect with other people that also have a similar why. Because that is your tribe. Those are your people. Those are your people that, although we might do it different, like you all do it different than I do, but we're still casting a net of support to the people that look and sound just like us. So be authentically you, definitely find your why. And once you find it, connect with other people that have a similar why. And then after that, really just live in that moment. I mean, we all know we have meetings, especially now, I'm zoomed out completely, but it's a necessary instrument to get the job done at this juncture with COVID and, everything that's going on. But while you're walking it out, still don't not live in the moment. Like this right here is huge for me. Like I'm taking in everything that you're saying. I'm trying to remember, like, and regurgitate everything in my mind you guys have said, especially the ramen conversation, Steve. We're going to come back to that. But I'm just living in this moment. It's another chapter in my advocacy walk, but it's still in the moment now. Like 10 years from now, I'll be able to look back like, oh, girl, you were spilling tea with the G's. But right now I'm living in it with the G's. Okay. Like I'm living in it now because I've been authentically me as much as possible walking through this journey. I found my why and it still continues to grow every day. It's not the same every day. But then I connected with you guys and we're just walking in this journey together, living in this moment. And be honest, just be honest with yourself. If any of that made sense.
No, listen, it definitely did.
It
definitely did.
Awesome.
When I was mentioning the December issue that's coming up, the title is Finding Your Herd. And so you essentially just kind of hit on a lot of what's going to be coming up in that one. So way to tease it for me, girl. I didn't even have to say anything about it. What you just said is and yeah, we're just thank you for saying all that you just said. The why. Absolutely. It's finding your tribe. It's also important. One of the individuals that wrote in this talks about how if it wasn't for COVID, she wouldn't have found groups of people because she was stuck with a bunch of people that were 70 years old, 80 years old in support groups, and she's mid 30s, and so and I know that's kind of a little bit different from the advocacy side, but still very similar, just the standpoint. Just because there's nothing in your hometown doesn't mean there's not something out there. And I think that's one of the big things of what we're trying to do, what you're trying to do, of reaching those people from an advocacy standpoint, from a survivorship standpoint, support standpoint, you name it, right? And I just think it's so important to find your why and just go find your tribe, find your herd, find those people that are like you or you're like them, and you can get the support or just friends that you need right now. So important. So important.
So Yolanda, I'm gonna throw my brother Nick a curveball right now because I like messing with him. It's fun. But do you have any questions for us that you'd like to ask?
Ooh, juicy.
You,
Let's
you
see.
think of those. I'm going to text my next call here and tell them I'm going to be late. Keep going. Keep going.
Questions for you. I mean, literally, excuse me. I just, first of all, and I don't know, so let's back up. For GabFest, and this is totally off cuff a little bit. So I was in contact with Julia from A Bridge, and that's my girl. I kind of do some stuff for them on the side as well. And she sent me this flyer and was like, Yolanda, do you mind if we use your testimony on our flyer? And I was like, girl, no, of course not. It's on the website. Like, I'm cool. So she sent me the picture, and Steve, you're on it. And I was like, I'm going to be on here with Steve? Are you kidding me? I was like, it's such an honor. So to say that, all of that to say, I've been had questions for you, Steve. Okay. I just kept hearing about you like you were this legend that floated in the air. And, this is just amazing that you're asking me this question, is all I'm saying. So I'm not going to belabor the point. I'm not going to give you guys 20,000 minutes. Steve, how the heck are you still so positive after all of these diagnoses? Like, I've only had one. I can't even imagine. Like, so let's start there. Like, how do you stay so positive? Like, how do you keep finding it in you to keep going?
The funny thing is, I mean, like, people have asked that question, but no one has really asked it with like any honest intensity, like hoping to get an answer.
Yeah.
So, part of it is just, one, I think part of it, I'm really ADHD.
That helps sometimes, I swear.
So my 10 minutes ago feels like 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But how do I stay positive? One, part of it's just me.
Mm-hmm.
This is just who I am. But also it's kind of this, like, how do I put this? Yes, I've had cancer 5 times with 4 different types of cancer. But I have also had a family that most people don't have.
Mm-hmm.
I've also had a father who has made more money than most people do,
Mm-hmm.
and has been able to help me out in times when most people's parents wouldn't have been able to help them out.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a little motto that I came up with post second cancer. And it was, it could always be worse until it can't be anymore. At which point I won't care because I'm not going to be here.
That makes sense though. Yeah.
And again, yeah, I've had 5 cancers, but I still get to work out every day. I still get to play basketball when it's not COVID time.
Mm-hmm.
I get to go rock climbing. And for some reason, my body heals really, really fast. I have friends, and I'm sure you have friends who have had started with stage 1 cancer and ended up not being able to walk,
mm-hmm.
not being able to talk.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, yeah, I could sit here and I could bitch and I could complain about every little ache and pain I have and all the times, that I've had schools screw me over. By the way, I think I'm at 6 colleges now, but I'll graduate in June. So
love it. Congratulations.
And I could complain about all of those things. And I do complain about those things. But at the same time, I also go, it could be worse. I'm lucky to be where I'm at right now. When I didn't live at home for the last 8 months, I was living with my parents. And I was living in a basement that was nicer than the house I was living in. It's hard to complain when you have so many things. And so beyond that, you just have to be grateful for being around, because sorry for those of you who I don't believe in a life after this. I don't.
This is it.
I don't believe in a God. So this is the one chance I get to be a good person, to take care of people, and to experience this thing we call life. So do it, and do it to the best you can. And, and don't get me wrong, I have my sad days, for gosh, trust me, there are plenty of days between addiction and other issues where I have laid on the ground and cried and be like, I want to end it all right now.
Yeah.
But 2 hours go by. I wipe the tears off my face, and you go, okay, time to push forward. There's too many people out there who suffer, and too many people out there who don't have the opportunities that I have to make a change. So I'll be happy if me being happy makes other people's lives easy. Why not be happy? So that's kind of where it is.
I love it. Perspective.
Life is perspective. And it's taken me a long time to realize that. You know, it's
Yeah.
one thing, you know, when I talk to a lot of cancer patients, you know, I have this just feeling about cancer. Cancer is terrible. It has ruined so many lives. It has taken so many lives.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, cancer has also ripped the veil off of the world,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so you see things for who they are. You see people for who they are. And I don't give a shit if you're white, black, green, gay, whatever. We live on this earth. We all want to have a good life.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just be kind to each other. Let's be nice. Ask the person how their day is.
Yep.
And part of it also is a science thing for me. I did read an article, a study that showed if you are kinder to people and simply acknowledge someone, they're more likely to have a nice day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I also witnessed what happens when you aren't kind, when we don't take into account the people's things. I have two memories that stick in my head. And the one I had a roommate once during treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And this was not a cancer patient.
Mm.
This was a young black man who had sickle cell.
Mm.
And the first night he was totally fine. He actually hung out with us on our side. Me and my brother hung out with him. And then the second night he was getting his transfusion, you know, and the agony that he was in, because those cells come into his kidneys and his livers and just hooking everything was like okay, this is like, I don't understand what's going on right now. And it really stuck in my mind. And then the second thing, and I know this might seem tangential to why I'm happy about all the time and why I'm positive, but part of it is just that you see that the sadness that comes from other things, and being happy doesn't hurt anybody. If someone's hurt by you being happy, then they've got some deep problems they have to deal with.
Absolutely.
You know, and I don't know why this is just, it's just, I don't know. I honestly lost the thought there, but it's just simply, I like being kind. I like being nice. I don't care if you voted for who or them or not, or agree with me or don't agree with me. We all experience pain. We all experience trauma. So I just like being kind. I don't know. I could go in circles here, but it's just me. I just like being kind. I like being happy.
Yeah. And it makes a world of difference. I can't tell you how many people told me while I was going through my whole year of 2016 with active treatment, my doctors, like you said, I don't know why I heal so quickly. I don't know why I didn't get sick from chemo. I can't tell you why, but perspective was key. And I would come into doctor's appointments and they were like, "You're smiling." I'm like, "Why aren't you?" I'm still here though. I'm still here to be in pain. I'm in pain, but I'm not 6 feet under. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still here to live it. That within itself is gratefulness. That within itself gives me a perspective that, okay, then let me go ahead and do this then. Let me go ahead and get this done and do whatever I need to do. And like you said, give myself the moment, but then, okay. And then keep it moving. Perspective. I love it. And it doesn't hurt to be kind. It doesn't hurt to be kind for no reason.
And truthfully, Yolanda, there's one person that's kind of pushed me into this. I mean, I was always a happy person, but the person I spoke about who had passed away, her name was Emily. She was 13. And when they sent her home, you know, they couldn't do any more. She didn't change her routine. She still did her crossword puzzles. She still did everything else and was still the same person, no matter what they told her. And she was happy.
Good.
And when at the wake, they even like gave her like a color because that's how they want to remember her, because that's how she was.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's
so I wake up and I think of her.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Unfortunately, I just had a cousin that passed away that was 42 unexpectedly from a heart attack. She died in her sleep. And you want to talk about perspective, like you said with your friend, she never changed her routine. She had some health things going on, but no one expected for her to have a heart attack and pass away. But it's that perspective that, like you said, if I can't do it for her, like that's why I need to do it. If I can't do it for any other reason, I need to do it because she no longer can. And it's that mental perspective that every day I'm going to try my hardest and my best to be the best that I can be. And just along the journey, be nice and smile. Hey, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to just smile and say hello. It doesn't. So yes, Steve, perspective. Thank you. Oh, that just helped me so much. Thank you, Steve.
Well, good. I'm glad I could help.
That was great. That was good. So Nick, on to you.
I was going to say, do I need to answer one still?
Yes, you do. Yes, you do, sir. You were not getting away
Not
with
getting
it.
away from this.
No, you are not. So Nick, you being, the giant that you are in the space, I've heard your name time and time again. I wanted to get to know you. Write for Elephants and Tea at some point, all of those things. Tell me, I'm sorry, Nick, your why. Because you're not a patient. You're not a survivor. Your brother is, which is great. You're doing it boom, boom, pow for brother. But what is your why? What keeps you going? What keeps you in the space that there's happiness and then there's sometimes death? And then you see your brother surviving after 5 diagnoses. Like, what continues to keep you pumping, to keep you going?
Sure. So I think there's a couple things that have kind of led me to this point. Obviously, Steve being diagnosed is one of the big one, right? Elephants and Tea would not exist if Steve was never diagnosed with cancer. Like, let's just call it what it is, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I think that I've always flirted with wanting to help people as a profession in some way. And I was always caught up at times with, oh, you don't make enough money doing this. Oh, you don't make enough money doing that, right? How many times I think everyone's always heard that, like, you want to be a teacher, or you want to do this, like, so I'm kind of laying the foundation here as I get to my point of, almost became a special education teacher, didn't finish it out, but had a really good career going, and frankly, a very good career going in the publishing side of the world in the B2B markets, and in content marketing. And I still do some consulting and things like that. And I've always wanted to start my own thing in some way. And it just, kid you not, I was actually thinking about this the other day, driving through, of all places, Missouri. I was actually picked up a sales territory for a while there. Random territory, mostly West Coast, but also like Missouri, Colorado, and I live in Cleveland, Ohio, because that makes sense. And it hit me that, here my expertise is in the digital marketing media side of things with print magazines and everything else. And it hit me I called my mom up. I'm like, hey, is there anything out there like what Elephants ended up being, any sort of media specifically for the AYA community? Because it just was like, you know what, we could continue to help people like our brother and see what he's going through. And, really Steve is the inspiration behind what we do, but it was my mom forcing me, right, to go to CancerCon the one year. And she's like, you have to go. Because, my mom, I think, is one of the more consistent people to go to any sort of young adult conference, as a caregiving side of things. There's a joke, our friend Dr. Christabel Chung, she said to me once that you have 2 moms in North America. You have Angie for the US and you have Pat Taylor in Canada. And anyway, so my mom was like, come just see what's going on. Because at the time I was trying to help Steve get through college, figure out his life and everything else. And didn't think chemo brain was the thing. This is 3 years ago, I think. And right, Steve, 3 years ago. And you walk into that room and you have conversation with those people, and about 300 plus people at Stupid Cancer's CancerCon every year. And it was a smack in the face of everybody is like Steve, or Steve is like everybody. Of everyone's got the same issues with cancer. So it was kind of just talking with people there of all colors, genders, and understanding that it doesn't matter what kind of cancer you have, it doesn't matter where you're from. They're all seeing the same issues. They're all seeing the same isolation. They're all seeing the same depression, psychosocial issues. It just showing up in a different way. And it was really a light bulb, if you will, of 1, an opportunity to start our own thing. And 2, an opportunity to finally, I think, do what my heart was always telling me to do, which was go and work and help people in some way. And that's exactly what we do now with Elephants and Tea. And just going head first and saying, hey, let's help provide a voice, kind of back to why you do what you do, Yolanda, of providing a voice for the AYA community and help them amplify their experience. We were actually originally, we're going to start a magazine with editorial and things of that nature, where we interview like this, and then we'd go write a story. And people are like, no, let us tell our own stories. Let us do our own thing. And, all you got to do is just read some of those stories. And I think that that's my why, is the amount of people that it started off slow, like anything else. We weren't really sure which way it was going to go. Are we going to have enough content? I mean, we have writers in 10 different countries now, and we're scheduled 2 or 3 months in advance, 3 posts a week. My board's going to kill me on how big this December magazine is going to be. But I couldn't say no to some of these submissions. So, my why is just the amount of people that we keep meeting and we keep reading about what they go through, that there's just a need to continue to push and help people know they're not alone going through this shitstorm. And it's just, so I guess my why, if I had to sum it up, it's just to help people not be alone with what they're going through. I think that's so important. And I think back to Steve's point, we are fortunate that we're in a family that has a support system, that has the financial backing, in more ways than just Steve's cancer, right? The majority of the people out there don't have one of those. So, to be able to support people in this way, I think it's small for us to do. I don't want to make it sound, I'm not trying to like belittle what we're doing or anything like that, but like just being there, just having the website, just having the magazine, it's extremely important for some people. And there's times where, I forget how important it really is to have the magazine for folks. We're in a time of digital, right? We're in a digital renaissance right now. And we have a print magazine. And we didn't print the print magazine in June because of COVID. June 2020, we didn't print it because all the hospitals that we send it to, and they're just like, we just can't take them right now because of touch, everything else with COVID, right? And some of the people just aren't working in the hospitals to hand it out to patients. The response we got back from people that the magazine wasn't available in print in June, you would have thought I killed someone's child. But it just shows you that, we need to keep doing this kind of stuff, whether it's Elephants and Tea, whether it's Yolanda Murphy, whether it's Lacuna Loft, whether it's Stupid Cancer. It takes a herd, no pun intended with elephants, but it truly, truly does. Cancer Con is wonderful. It's the best conference around when it comes to young adults, in my opinion. But they only get 300 some people there every year. Think about that. You know what I'm saying? So which again, it's awesome. I'm not trying to knock that, but so many, we're almost up to 90,000 AYAs diagnosed a year. We went from, I think, 70,000 for years, then all of a sudden it was 80, all of a sudden it's 90,000 in like a 2-year span. Like, holy crap, man. So just continuing, I realize I'm going on a tangent now. See, Yolanda, you got us.
You're welcome.
But yeah, so my why is just to continue to help people know they're not alone. That's really it, because I can't imagine what it's like to be alone and go through this. Whether it's the patient, whether it's the caregiver, whoever, right? I think that's extremely important.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things you also touched on is that the cancer patient or survivor is not the only one that goes through it. It's really the whole support system that goes through it. You know what I mean? I have a brother. I have, my mom and dad. My mom was my rock. I mean, my dad was my voice of, wisdom. Do you really need to be lifting that box after you just had chemo? Let me grab that for you. And then my mom was the emotional side, like, do you want something to eat? Do you need a cry? The balance, But if it wasn't for them and my brother and his family, he has a wife and 2 children. They were my support. And you're right. We are not just the ones that go through it, but your whole entire sphere, goes through it in different ways. But we all need that voice, all of us. And that's important.
Right. And I want to throw something else out there at you too, as you say that. There's an individual, Allison, her begins with B, but she has a website, negative space. It's not .com, it's something else. But she talks about how if you look at a picture, it's negative space, right? That there's something in the middle, but then you're focused on the negative space around it. you can't have that picture without whatever the focus point is, but also what's around it. And she's a caregiver. Her husband has cancer. And she talks about how the support system is the negative space in the photo. You have that focus point that's the person, and it all comes together and makes this happy or cohesive unit, if you will, right? And a beautiful image too. So you need that support, and you need to help each other. So
absolutely. That's, I'm gonna have to look that up. Okay, Allison.
Yeah, I'll have to actually, let me see if I can do it, because I want to give her credit for me stealing her saying.
Yes.
Figure it out real quick. Searching the negative space .life.
.life. Okay.
.life.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
Allison Brenninger. She's written for us a couple times. She's got an awesome blog as well. So
nice.
So it's just, I just think it's so relevant, right, to everything we just talked about there. So
absolutely, all of them are needed.
Yeah. Yolanda, thank you so much for joining us. This has been so great. I know we could keep going, and I'm sure we will. But go ahead, Steve.
You always look at me.
Mouthing. Say something. Use your words.
I will use my words. Yolanda, thank you so much for being here. Don't mind my brother. He's a pain. But we're so happy you could be here. It was such a pleasure. And I hope to continue this conversation afterwards, when we sign off, and for the rest of our journeys that we get to have here. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. As always, it was a pleasure. It was my honor to be on Spilling Tea with the G's.
Thank you, Yolanda.
Absolutely.
And I should say too, if people want to check out your website, it is thisexceptionaljourney.com, correct?
Yes, sir. And I'm on all social platforms, so hit me up.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Yolanda.
Thank you.
All right, we're good. I will stop.
I always wanted to do that, just to give a peace out, like
pieces. Awesome.